DC Multiverse!
How's it going, super friends? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are looking at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse New 52 Nightwing, Talon, and Owl action figure 3-pack. Yes, all three of these are primarily made out of reused parts. In the case of Talon, it's just 100% reuse, only with a brand new deco. Here he is in comparison to the previous release of Talon. So as we can see, exact same sculpt, there's absolutely nothing different, just a complete redeco. And Nightwing is primarily, aside from his gauntlets and head sculpt, a reuse of a previous Nightwing action figure. Here he is pictured beside that one. We can see, again, completely reused parts. Oh, and I do believe Nightwing's feet actually may come from Wallace West. I think that's where his feet came from. And we can see that Owl is actually primarily a reuse of a Joker action figure. Only this time, you can see that he's been redecoed in gray, and he has a shirt with a tie and a brand new head sculpt. Other than that, these figures are very, very largely reused, and I'm okay with that. We're going to look at each figure up close in just a second, but first I want to talk about their accessories. Nightwing comes with his two Eskrima sticks. They are the shock baton kind, as we can see from the ends of them, while Talon comes with two swords and two daggers, just like he did previously, and Owl comes with, well, an owl. And of course, they each come with an action figure stand and 0 trading cards. Instead, rather, opting for this larger piece of cardboard with Talon and Nightwing printed on one side and the Court of Owls over here on the other. There's no stand to put this in. At least my package didn't come with one, so I don't really know what you're supposed to do with it. That, I guess. Anywho, let's look at each figure individually now, starting with Nightwing. Being that Nightwing is a super popular character, some of you folks at home may be the most excited about seeing Dick Grayson in his black and red duds here. I have some thoughts about it, which I'll get into in just a second. First, I want to have a nice close-up look at Nightwing's face, and it's really good, actually. It's certainly one of the best Nightwing face sculpts that we've seen so far come from McFarlane Toys. No complaints at all. And I wanted to have a little bit of a closer look at the gauntlets that come on this Nightwing figure. Those are pretty cool, too. I will say that the painted detail that they put up here that looks like they're trying to emulate the new 52 Nightwing suit really isn't doing anything for me. Whether it's the front or the back here, I kind of wish, you know, if they were going to go to all of that effort to sculpt him a brand new head sculpt, I feel like they should have also sculpted him a new torso piece as well to complete the look. Here is the Nightwing from the 3-pack in between the DC Collectibles New 52 Nightwing, which is detail accurate, a fantastic figure, one of my favorite New 52 figures. And on the other side, we have McFarlane's first attempt at a red and black New 52 style Nightwing. This one came in the Red Hood Nightwing 2-pack. As far as articulation for this figure goes, we've seen it before. The torso is not super great. I mean, it goes all the way around and it can spin back and everything, but it does not have very much of anything forward. I would actually wager and say it has nothing forward. Of course, the waist is also going to have 360 swiveling capabilities with bobbly round motion. You've got the arms, which are on those rounded hinges, and they've also got the sockets. You got yourself the bicep, which is 360. You got your double jointed elbows, which do not disappoint. A rounded hinge in the wrist here. The head is on that rounded ball joint and is actually really good. He's pretty good. No real complaints there. You've got the McFarlane style groin there, and it gets a little bit of motion like that. It's not terrible. I wish that it had more of this. As always, that seems to be my one complaint. Then the knees, double jointed, ankles, rounded shaped hinges that are also a pivot, and toe articulation. So I would probably give this figure a 6.5 out of 10, maybe 6.8. Next up is Talon, a figure that no doubt a lot of you folks are going to be really excited for. This is going to be the reason why some of you buy this 3-pack. Perhaps you missed out on the first Talon and this is your chance to get him, or maybe you just like this set of colors as opposed to the original black. I must say, looking at the head sculpt, I am definitely a fan of the red lenses in his night vision. I really like that. I think that stands out. It pops nicely. And the rest of the details actually display off of this brownish color nicely as well. I like the gold. I think that the gold looks really nice. You've got his wrist gauntlet here with these short spiky throwables and the claw that is on his hand, along with the owl-shaped wrist gauntlet on the other arm, all in gold. In this case, all of the pouches and the leather on his uniform have been painted a different color gray, and I think that it works. And although I feel like the black one is definitely more accurate, this one is certainly really cool to look at. I think this is a really cool looking figure. As you can see, these knives fit in his hand nicely, although I do have to wonder, why does Talon have not one, but 2 trigger finger hands? Why doesn't he just have grabby finger hands, just grabby hands? Just like with the last Talon figure, you actually just take this little peg and stick it in his back, and that's how his swords stay on his back there. But also, much like with the last Talon figure, we have the sheaths being open. I don't like this. I don't like the scabbards being open on the side. I would rather have the scabbards fit and be able to stick the swords all the way in, if that means modifying the swords a little bit, or I'm not sure how they could have done that. But this whole thing where you have the crack, yeah, I just think it's weird. And they fall out sometimes. As for Talon's articulation, it's going to be the same as the previous one. It's been quite a while since we reviewed that, so we can look at it. He got his torso articulation. He does have a little bit of downsy motion where he can look down a little bit, but everything else is all around, and it's not too terrible. We have better articulation in the waist than with the previous Nightwing figure. He has articulation in the head by way of a ball joint, but because his head, his mask, his cowl is the way that it is, you know, I mean, this gets more articulation than I would think it would get, but it still is really limited by just what this is. You have the socket, you have the rounded hinge, you have the bicep swivel, you have the double jointed elbow as usual. That doesn't double joint down quite as much as I would have liked to see. You have a rounded hinge in the wrist. We have down here with that groin that we know we're going to get, and that's what we're getting as far as the articulation there. And it's got a little bit of that, not too much. I wish it had more. We've got the double jointed knees, and again, a rounded hinge right here in the foot. That's also a pivot, and toe articulation. Not a bad figure. Actually, I like this one better than Nightwing, so I'm going to give this guy a solid 8 out of 10. Certainly not a bad figure whatsoever, and going to be the standout for a lot of you folks at home. Next, we have the Owl from the Court of Owls, and this figure, there's not really a lot to it. You know, it's just a dude in a gray business suit, pants, jacket. We've seen this sculpt before. We know that there's, you know, it's not a super exciting figure. He does have a nice gray tie. I mean, he doesn't really seem that much on color. Gray, black, lighter gray, and then boom, a purple tie. Not much on color, but the tie is a nice sort of break from all the gray. The face sculpt for this guy actually, you know, I mean, it's simple. You got the blonde hair in the back. And other than that, it's just your basic Court of Owls mask. So there's not really much detail to speak about. I mean, how do you mess up a Court of Owls mask? I mean, they didn't. McFarlane did a pretty good job. But other than that, I mean, there's not really much to say about this figure. It's not an exciting figure to talk about. And the articulation, I mean, you know what you're getting into with this, right? He's got a body with a jacket that gets in the way of any articulation point that he does have in there. So just expect this to be a solid, thick lump The arms go up into a T that is not too bad. You have your rounded hinge in the armpits with your socket. You got your 360 bicep swivel, your double jointed elbow, your rounded hinge in the wrist. You know, this is all pretty much par for the course down here in the groin, McFarlane style groin, and the legs get, you know, I mean, they get okay articulation. I mean, what do you expect from a guy wearing business suit pants? You know, he's not going to be doing acrobatics, and these guys aren't exactly known for doing acrobatics, so I'm okay with that. You do get actually a fair amount of the approximation of a thigh cut with this guy, at least going inside. When you try to go outside, there's really next to nothing, so that could be better. Yeah, I always gripe on that, but I really do want to see more there. We've also got the double jointed knees, as we've come to expect, and you have a rounded hinge here. That is also a pivot, and you have your toe articulation as well. But yeah, really not much to talk about. It's a simple business suit figure. I would probably give this guy a solid 6.7 out of 10, just because they did a good job with, you know, what the task was. Make a boring looking business suit figure. I'm sure you're going to be more like me. You're not going to pose him around much. You're just going to stick him on the shelf and just sort of leave him there as a shelf warmer. And the little owl, I mean, the owl looks cool enough, you know, no real complaints about it. It's a neat looking sort of accessory. Again, though, how do you make the owl stand on his arm or on his shoulder? I mean, I'm sure there are some of you out there who are really good at balancing that could get this, you know, this owl to stay. But the reality is, oh, look at that. Oh, I'm going to say I got it. But his claw was underneath the owl's head, so it was staying. He wanted to fall off. You get the point, right? It's like, what is this for? It's a cool accessory. It looks cool. But what is it for? Where does it go? Is it just supposed to stand at his feet? Anyway, those are my thoughts on all three of the figures that came in the Nightwing, Talon, and Owl 3-pack from McFarlane Toys. Talon is my favorite, Nightwing is pretty good, and the Owl is, you know, he's just a guy in a suit. Being honest, I would probably give this 3-pack a 7.5 out of 10. So yeah, if you see it around where you're shopping, Walmart or Target, and you're wondering whether or not you should pick it up, I think it's definitely worth the pickup. But hey, that's just me. I'm just one guy with one opinion. Let me know down in the comments what you think, and I will see you with the next one. Have yourself a DC day, everybody, and take care.